You already know what time it is. Welcome back in to the NFL with AJL, episode 30. We are alive and well, live on Facebook, YouTube, all the platforms. Tonight on a Tuesday, you could have been anywhere else in the world, chose any other podcast or show, but you're locked in with us. Episode 30. Got a guest tonight, but we'll get to that in a second. Deandre Hopkins has finally signed with a team. Top 10 NFL wide receivers. We're going over that later on in the show, and a few more topics as well. Don't want to spoil it for you guys. Hope everyone has had a great week, had a great month, as 2023 is literally, like I've been telling everyone, the fastest year of my life. Hope you guys are crushing it out there, being around your family and friends, and just enjoying 2023 as the summer slowly moves out. As always, make sure to like, subscribe, get at us on all social media platforms at the NFL with AJL. You already know about the QR code in the corner of the screen. Will give you every bit of social media and podcast content. And without further ado, like I mentioned, for episode 30, we have a guest. Please join me in welcoming Logan from the Coordinated Chaos NFL podcast. Good to have you in tonight, man. What is going on?
Hey, man, I am ready to go. I'm excited. Like you said, Coordinated Chaos NFL football podcast. I got my thing going on over there. But this is my first time being on another show, doing anything other than just a monologue, just like you kind of do for the most part. Yeah. I'm excited to get it going.
100%, man. Yes, very glad to have you. Didn't know that it was a first guest appearance for you on a show. I was telling Logan before we got on, guys, that, hey, he actually emailed me, very humbling moment. It was like, dude, I love your content. I'd love to be on a show. We've been going back and forth a little bit over the last few weeks, and we were able to get him in. But yes, like we mentioned, Deandre Hopkins has signed with the Titans. We're going to go over the top 10 NFL wide receivers and a few more topics as well. So let's not hold anybody. Let's go ahead and jump right in, excuse me for the typo at the bottom of the very first graphic as we get into the show, guys. Deandre Hopkins to the Tennessee Titans on a 2-year, $26 million deal that might have some people up in arms. I didn't get a chance to see where this actually stands with NFL wide receivers as we walk into this deal. But first and foremost, Logan, what does this do for Tennessee's offense? We'll start there.
Yeah, honestly, I think for Tennessee's offense, this just keeps them in contention and basically just keeps them in the AFC South. I think the AFC South is relatively open. I mean, obviously you have the Jaguars who, came on the scene really hot last year. Trevor Lawrence finally had a head coach, I should say, that was worth anything rather than, what they had last year or before that. Pretty rough there. But I think this just puts them square in the mix in the AFC South. Obviously the Colts are a team that they're trying to get on the rise here. They got their QB of the future potentially.
Right.
But I mean, the Houston Texans also did too, but I don't know if they're on the same track as well.
Yeah.
I think this just puts them squarely in position to compete in the AFC South.
Yeah, competing in the AFC South, I feel like that might be tough for Tennessee. Bringing in Deandre Hopkins, it does definitely give them more excitement to a team that I thought was one of the, most bare offenses in the NFL. And Mike Vrabel is a great coach. We know he's going to get the most out of his players. But, more than anything for Tennessee, this gives them a veteran wide receiver who has been successful really with any quarterback in his career. You look at whether it was, Deshaun Watson, I believe Brock Osweiler was in there at one point, had a Kyler Murray who was, good for a little bit while he was throwing to him, but we kind of saw that fall off of Kyler Murray, unfortunately, and even with him being one of my favorite players in the league. And even at D-Hop's peak, he's shown that he's proven to be one of the best in the league, if not at least a top 5 wide receiver. And I want to put this out there for everyone that I know watches the channel, watches the show. I had a really awful prediction for the Tennessee Titans. We're going to get into some AFC West record predictions later on too. Couple weeks ago, I think it was about a month ago or so, I said, look, I don't see a lot with this Titans team. I know they have a good, solid defense. I understand Mike Vrabel's there, but what's up with the quarterback situation? What's going on with this total offense? And I dubbed them as going 2-15 for the year. After the D-Hop move, and I get a little more common sense in my head, I'm going to have them win at about 5 or 6 games. Like I mentioned before, Mike Vrabel really gets the most out of his guys. He's created like umpteen different, depth charts, starting lineups with all the injuries that he's had, and he's still won games. Now let's switch over to the side of DeAndre Hopkins. What do you feel like this does for D-Hop's career now that he's on the other side of 30? We'll talk about the deal a little bit here in a little bit, but what does this do for DeAndre Hopkins' career to you?
Yeah, so for him, I think it's just one of those situations where this was his last opportunity to get a bag. I don't think he was getting this deal from any other team in the league. I mean,
Yeah,
there was just rumors of, the Buffalo Bills, Kansas City Chiefs,
right. Which
just
we all
the
want.
likes of those. They were going to be bargain hunting at this point to try to get a guy to sign with them like D Hop that they know is a good talent, but they
Right.
were just essentially banking on the ring chasing aspect of it and not exactly paying him what he's technically worth, even though he is, like you said, on the other side of 30. I think he just gets his last chance at a bag. I think he knows he's not going to probably win a Super Bowl anytime soon with this team. But at the very least, like I said, I think he hopes they can compete, and I think he definitely sets that offense in the right direction. I mean, with Traylon Burks potentially going in as the wide receiver one was not going to be a good thing, I don't think, for that offense in general. So they were going to rely heavily on Derrick Henry already. So I think this just puts another element that can help Ryan Tannehill, which I'm of the opinion that he's a little bit underrated. I know a lot of people have varying, I don't know, just opinions on his skill level and whatnot, but
Right.
I think he can get it done. So,
Yeah. For DeAndre Hopkins, and you make a good point right there. You know what? When I first saw this, because one of the things D Hop says is like, I want to go to a veteran team, or excuse me, a veteran, quarterback. I want to go to a team that's competing, stable organization, like a true opportunity to compete for a Super Bowl and win. And I don't see that with this move here. But when you look in at what it does for DeAndre Hopkins himself, it really still shows the world that he can still ball anywhere at any time with any quarterback and really increase his value and spark really that second stint of his career. Because like you were mentioning with the bag, and let's talk about the bag a little bit, as people I know were kind of wondering, 2 year $26 million. So it's got $6 million in incentives in total over those 2 years. There's $3 million in the first year, $3 million in the second year. If he gets, I think, 95 catches, a little over 1,100 yards, and 10 touchdowns, he'll qualify for a $3 million bonus in 1 year. If he does it again in the next year, it's another $3 million. So when you look at it, it's a base deal of 2 years, $20 million. You're
yeah.
telling me that you got DeAndre Hopkins, which, let's also take this kind of angle for a second. Everyone's like, oh, he's injury prone, Adam. Look at the last season. Look at the season before. Before that, D Hop was fairly healthy. And let's not forget that he missed 6 games last year with a PED suspension. That even, when I look at his numbers, I kind of forget that he mixed those first 6 games of the season. And D Hop was very shameful. He said, hey, I didn't know this was going to happen. And then he misses a couple games with injuries last year. Same thing, but a few more games with the year before. But let's not act like DeAndre Hopkins can't be, like I said, at his peak, the best receiver, a top 5, even top 10 at worst receiver in the NFL. And you're telling me you got him for $10 million a year before his incentives kick in. So even once he's getting 95 catches, so let's just say 100 catches, 1,000 yards, 10 touchdowns, right? D-Hop's still only going to cost you $13 million a year. And you go look at some of the top, contracts. Tyreek Hill, $30 million a year. Devontae Adams, $28 million a year. DeAndre Hopkins before this was $27 million a year. So he takes that discount, of course. Cooper Kupp, $26 million. AJ Brown, $25 million. Stephon Diggs, $24 million. He can contend with any of those guys. He can be in the types of conversations with any of those wide receivers. So when you look at how, like, okay, Tennessee, a lot of people aren't really thinking, most of you, like you said, some people underrate Ryan Tannehill. It feels kind of a lightning in the bottle situation for me. When Baker Mayfield a few years back got him to the playoffs and really hasn't been, anything since. But let's talk about, now that we're past the bag, why this could or couldn't possibly make sense. But of course, the guest will go first here. Does this or doesn't it make sense to you with D Hop choosing the Tennessee Titans as, the team to go play for?
Yeah, you kind of alluded to it in the things you were saying before, where I think this just gives him an opportunity once again to prove that he's still a wide receiver one in the league.
Right.
And that's going to be a big
Undoubtedly
thing
feel
going
that.
forward for his, just the rest of his career, as well as right now. Also, just from a selfish perspective as well, if you think about it, I mean, I don't know how much you talk about fantasy football on here and how much you play. But from that perspective, man, this gives everybody else another opportunity to draft a wide receiver one, probably still late in your drafts as well, because
Yeah.
he's hitched to a guy like Ryan Tannehill. Not a lot of people want to take that risk, but at least he's there. And another selfish thing is, as a fan, I'm an Eagles fan. I mean, whoever's in the AFC, like fans of those people, I mean, this just gives more parity to the league at the very most. And
Right.
so you're not having to deal with DeAndre Hopkins hopping on a Chiefs team where you think at
Right.
that point you're like, oh my goodness, they're going to run the whole league.
Here
You don't
they
have to
go.
exactly. You don't have to worry
Yeah.
about him going to the Bills where they're like, okay, they're probably going to win the AFC now. Like
Right.
This just gives more parity. I think it's better for the NFL for big time stars to be spread out like this.
Right.
And I think, I mean, the AFC is already a gauntlet in itself.
Right.
This just makes it a little bit better.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I hate when I get on these topics and points of why it could or couldn't make sense. But like we said, DeAndre Hopkins goes on I Am Athlete podcast and he even tweets out, I'm not going to stop balling until I'm not 1,000-yard receiver anymore. And then he says, I don't want to go to uh, a rookie QB room or a rookie quarterback. I want to go to a veteran. He named his top teams. He named his top players. So the reason it kind of doesn't make sense is, like I said, he wants to play for a Super Bowl contender, which Tennessee is not, in my opinion, right now. They can be a competitive team, and maybe they can compete for, yes, that second place in the AFC South. But as Fred just dropped in the comments, like the AFC South is the Jaguars to lose all day, every day. That's probably the one big lock of the divisions, I guess, we could say for the NFL. But Tannehill is average at best currently when I take a look at it. And Tennessee is outmatched by a lot of teams in the AFC. You talked about how stacked it was, how much of a gauntlet it is. And let's not forget, this is one of the shakiest quarterback rooms in the NFL. Yes, we mentioned Ryan Tannehill. They had Malik Willis, who they bought in on for about 2 minutes, and then they went and drafted Will Levis. And there's just a lot of question marks in this quarterback room. It's one of the shakiest in the league. But let's look at the reason as why it could and would make sense for DeAndre Hopkins. He's 31 years old. He might only get one more decent contract once he's at that 32, 33-year-old age after the stint in Tennessee. Maybe they keep and want to stay here. But he's going to get a lot of attention as a number one option here versus a Ravens, a Bills, the Chiefs with Travis Kelce, Ravens with Zay Flowers, OBJ, Mark Andrews, Bills with Stephon Diggs. The Bills probably would have been the best one to be a true number two option, especially with the drama with Stephon Diggs. But here, he's undoubtedly going to be the number one. Maybe Treylon Burks still has enough belief from other people to get D-Hop open, but I was never a crazy person on, Treylon Burks as he is there with with the Tennessee Titans. But y'all get in the comments. Let us know what you think about DeAndre Hopkins to the Tennessee Titans. Does or doesn't it make sense? I don't think I threw it in here, but I want to see if maybe you got one. I don't think I popped it in there. No, excuse me. I might have popped it on your lineup when I emailed it over. If you can, do you possibly have a rough stat line for DeAndre Hopkins with the Tennessee Titans this year?
Yes. What I just kind of, I mean, this was no real research went into this other than like looking at his stats from last year, really. But, he was missing 6 games from the suspension. But this is kind of what I came up with. It was 101 receptions, 1,103 yards, and 7 TDs.
Nice. 101 catches, 1,100 yards. You said 7 TDs?
Yes, sir.
So it sounds like you've got him earning 2 of the $3 million in incentives. I think if he got to 7 touchdowns, it was like $750,000. They take it up in increments of $250,000. Yeah, I'm gonna say 100 catches for sure because he's gonna be that number one option. Mm-hmm. I feel like I'm going to fall maybe 12 or 1,300 yards somewhere around there. And I think D-Hop will have about 8 or 9 touchdowns next year. I'd love to see him be that double-digit touchdown guy. If I remember his numbers correctly, I don't believe he's ever been up in that echelon. But again, we know what D-Hop can be at his peak. Ryan Tannehill, Malik Willis, Will Levis, whoever the hell is going to be under center for Tennessee, under the guard of Mike Vrabel. They'll have that number one option in D-Hop. And we take a look at it, too, just before we move on. We've had Randy Moss go to the Tennessee Titans at the end of his days. We had Andre Johnson, which people might even not remember was with the Tennessee Titans later in his days. And then Julio Jones, who gets traded over there. They go from Super Bowl hoorah contenders to now Julio Jones is injury riddled over the year. And I just hope that it's really not the same for D-Hop. We don't want Tennessee to be that place of, where veteran wide receivers go to die and waste their career. We don't want it to be that type of thing. But again, ladies and gentlemen, y'all get in the comments, get in the chat. Let us know how you feel about D-Hop to the Tennessee Titans. And maybe you guys thought that I forgot about the record predictions that we were doing for the entire NFL. I absolutely didn't. And that's why I had Logan come on tonight so we could chop up maybe the best, most competitive division, not looking too deep into it, in the NFL. It's going to reside in the conference of the AFC, and we're talking about the AFC West, starting with the defending Super Bowl champions, Kansas City Chiefs. Give me your record prediction for this year, man. Overall, anything special you see coming from them in this season?
So this is just one of those situations where it's the Chiefs, and I'm going to have to see it to believe it for anybody else to win this division itself. Pat is just way too good at playing the position. Right. And so right now I have them at 13-4. Yeah. slightly worse than last year, but not by a whole lot. They're missing Juju Smith-Schuster, which I don't think is a huge deal, but it is something.
Right.
They're missing a few other people. Frank Clark is no longer there. So it's one of those
Right.
situations where I think there's probably a little bit of a step back for them, but by not much at all. So
Right.
I have them. The things I did write down here, though, are just some notable losses that I can see on their schedule since there's only 4 of them.
Yeah.
I do have them losing technically back-to-back games, one before the bye and one directly after the bye. That's the Dolphins game and then
Me
the Eagles
too.
game. I think the
Yeah.
Eagles are going to. I'm biased.
It's
I'm gonna be
okay.
honest with you, but I think the Eagles are going to be pissed off about the Super Bowl. They just are. And
Yeah.
I don't know if Kansas City is going to be, as up for it. They may,
Yeah.
but it's just one of those like emotional games where they
For
might not
sure.
be as up for it as the Eagles. Then I have the Bengals, them losing to the Bengals late in the season.
Yeah.
And then the Chargers late in the season as well, which I think is one of those situations where they probably already have the division wrapped up.
Yeah.
And they're probably not even playing their starters in that last game against the Chargers. So that's where I'm going with that.
Yeah, very, very possible. I will say with everyone in the AFC West, just a little bit of a peak outside of the Raiders, just absolutely just getting demolished on the year. I have the Chiefs, Chargers, and Broncos all splitting with each other, and then all of them sweeping the Raiders as well. So when you look at the Chargers and the Chiefs possibly playing on at the end of the year, I think that could be an instance. And this was a big talk about the 17th game coming in with the 7th seed in the, in the playoffs. Now only the 1 seed gets the bye. I think you're talking about that Chiefs-Chargers game towards the end of the year. That could be one that I think a lot of people are going to turn into. Yes, the Chiefs could have it wrapped up. I'm going to lean more on the side, though, that I really think the Chargers will be competitive, and I actually shocked myself as I saw where the Chargers were going to finish out here. But great take on the Chiefs, no question. We know they're an awesome team, and I'll always be excited to watch Reed and Mahomes cook up anybody on the field, even if it's your Eagles, which I love Jalen Hurts, even if it's my Saints. We've both witnessed it in recent memory, so we totally understand the wrath that they bring. I'm going to have Kansas City going 12-5 overall, so just a hair underneath you. 7-2 at home, 5-3 on the road. I think they're going to start 6-1 actually on the year. It's going to be a close win to the Jaguars. I think they're going to have a close loss to the Jets on the road as well. I really like what that Jets defense is going to bring. I want to say that's around week 4. And then they're going to also have, I think they're going to be starting 5-2, if I'm not mistaken, because I have them losing to the Jets and then also losing at the Broncos in week 9 as well. They get an awesome week 10 bye week, which kind of pisses me off for the defending Super Bowl champs, but it is what it is. They're going to be 7-2 going into that bye week. And anytime you can place it in the middle or just a little after in the middle of the season, it's always going to benefit you. I've got them finishing second in the division because of how the schedules play out. And this isn't a slight saying that the team that's going to finish ahead of them is actually going to, absolutely blowing it out of the water. They're going to wrap it up, go represent the AFC. Absolutely not. But when you look at the Chiefs' schedule, they've got some games on there that could really go either way. And I'm not doubting what Reed and Mahomes and Kelsey and that entire franchise is capable of. But yes, finishing second in the division, got them going 4-2. They're going to sweep the Raiders, split with the Chargers and the Broncos. Again, very competitive division here. And when you look at just the Chiefs' schedule overall, kind of getting into it here, outside of Chicago in week 3, the Chiefs really have it cut out for them in the first 11 weeks of the season. I mean, you go take a look. You've got Detroit to open it, Jacksonville, Chicago in week 3, like I said, the Jets in week 4, the Vikings in week 5, Denver in week 6, Chargers in week 7, Denver again. I mean, it's just coming on right here. Miami week 9, your Eagles, like you said, in week 11. They're going to play a very good stretch of teams here. Weeks 8, 9, and 11, you got Denver on the road, Miami at 9:30 in the morning, and then you've also got Miami's defense, I think, really wins here for this game at 9:30 in the morning. Could be a possible shootout with Tua's offense, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, loving what Mike McDaniel did early in that year. And then Philadelphia at home, but I'm with you. I think Philadelphia wins that Super Bowl rematch. So when you've got Denver, Miami, and Philadelphia, that's going to be 3 straight losses right there for me. So kind of an interesting stretch of the Kansas City Chiefs there, but I got them going 12-5 overall, finishing second in the division. Now we're going to go on to the Los Angeles Chargers, which is a team I feel like I've been waiting for a minute to actually make something happen, but you go ahead and dive in those 2 predictions for me, Logan.
Yeah, man, I am a huge Chargers fan, like when it comes to just the fact that Justin Herbert is there. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I've had family that's lived in San Diego like a long time ago. So
Oh, yeah.
Phillip Rivers when he was there, LaDainian Thomas when he was there. I just had like they were almost like my AFC team for a while there. I'm from North Carolina. I'm an NC State Wolfpack fan, so the Phillip Rivers thing just kept coming hand in hand for that as well. But yeah, I love Justin Herbert. He's the man. I think he's going to have a killer year with Kellen Moore as the OC. I think the Cowboys made a mistake in letting him go. I think he was the scapegoat. Should have never happened. But let me digress on that there. 12-5 is what I have the Chargers going. They will be second in the AFC West. I did the same thing where I have notable, losses here for them. I have them losing to the Titans in a close one. I don't know. I have this feeling where Vrabel and just that hard-nosed, just tough football and Derrick Henry just for some reason have the Chargers number as of late, and I think they'll get it done there. Kansas City, I have them losing to them the first matchup. The Jets, the Ravens, and the Bills. Those are the games that they will probably drop this season.
Yeah, I have those games highlighted on my end over here as well, but I'll get into here for us. 13-4 overall for the Chargers here. Going to have them going 8-1 at home, 5-3 on the road. And this is the team that I have finishing first in the division. No, I'm not saying that they're going to be way better than Kansas City again. They're not going to go and represent the AFC in the Super Bowl before the Chargers fans gets all excited, or the Chief homers just come in and try to crash the show, bombarding me in the comments. When you look at the schedule, when you look at those key games, like you said, do I trust Herbert over Mahomes in his first playoffs? Probably not, because they just blew it to the Jaguars, and Mahomes has won 2 Super Bowls with Reed. But if we're talking about strictly records and division finishes, I got the Chargers finishing first in the division. I think they're going to start the season 4-0 before they head into a Week 5 bye, which I'm not a fan of for the Chargers, again, for a bye week here with a team, because we've seen the Chargers recently. They're a team that usually can't keep their stars healthy. We've seen a Keenan Allen, we've seen a Mike Williams, Austin Eckler not be able to stay healthy, Derwin James. That's very deterring for a team that has the roster for the last couple of years to easily win 12, 13, 14 games, be a great offense, but the best ability is availability. Got them going 4-2 in the division as well, again, sweeping the Raiders, splitting with Kansas City and Denver. But coming out of the Week 5 bye is really the meat of the schedule. So, walking into Week 5, they got Miami, Tennessee, Minnesota, Las Vegas. Very simple there. Coming out of Week 5, Dallas, Kansas City, Chicago, the Jets, the Lions, the Packers, Baltimore, New England, Denver, Vegas. I mean, the whole meat and potatoes. And then the last 3 weeks, Buffalo, Denver, Kansas City. So they just really have a lot of games that are cut out for them. And here's the pivotal games, to where if the Chargers, depending on how the Chargers play in these 2 games, to me is really going to depend on if they win the division. So the Chargers' most pivotal games are going to be against Baltimore in Week 12 and against Buffalo in Week 15. It's in their favor because both of those games are at home. I have them beating Baltimore and losing to Buffalo, thus winning the AFC West. But if for some reason they lose to Baltimore and Buffalo, then I think they'll slip out of first in the division. I think that's how the numbers will line up, and the Chiefs will be able to take it. If they win both, then they're definitely going to be able to win to win the AFC West. But again, Baltimore Week 12, Buffalo in Week 15. I believe they're good enough to beat both of those teams, but that's where I start to wonder, okay, how is this Chargers team? Are they healthy? What's up with the defense? Brandon Staley is the biggest question mark. I know Chargers fans are probably really tired of hearing their head coach get talked about there. But yes, y'all get in the comments. Let us know what you think about the Chiefs and the Chargers 2023 NFL record prediction. I'm here with Coordinated Chaos NFL podcast, Logan Hill, tapping in on the show with me. And now we're going to spill over into the Denver Broncos, which is a team that I'm really keeping my eye on. New Orleans Saints fan here, so I know the first-hand treatment of Sean Payton, whether some people are or aren't fans of him. But let's get into it, Logan. How do you feel about Denver this coming year?
Yeah, so the Broncos here, I have going 6-11.
Ooh,
yeah, I just don't.
Here's where the show turns.
Yeah, I just don't see Sean Payton in his first year with Russell Wilson turning that ship around as quickly as other people might expect him to. Yeah, I'm hoping for it. It's better for the NFL. It's better for the league. It's better for just the fans, the Broncos, and like I don't know. Just when the Broncos are good, the NFL is a better place.
Very true.
It's one of those franchises where you kind of want them to be in the mix of things.
Yep.
Russell Wilson, I didn't like the narrative around him last year. It felt bad on my heart. Once again, another NC State Wolfpack that I had to kind of root for. But he kind of brought it onto himself. He was terrible. And I don't know how much of that was Nathaniel Hackett. I don't know how much of that was him. But I just don't know if what Sean Payton can bring to that team in the first year can really turn that thing around, like I said.
Yeah, he's definitely got his hands full, and I'll admit, biased. He won my franchise the first and only Super Bowl we've ever been to. We wore bags on the heads. Like, we know about what the Saints' history was,
Yeah.
and knowing what he walked into, just think about the kind of similarities. Sean Payton literally said in the interview, "I didn't want the New Orleans job. He wanted to go coach for the Cowboys or Green Bay." But Green Bay had already picked up Mike McCarthy. I think the Cowboys might have been set on Jerry Jones at the time, if I'm not mistaken. And so he went and, picked up the New Orleans job, and he became Sean Payton, and Drew Brees became Drew Brees. And, Who Dat Nation was kind of born again. And then you look at what he's walking into with the Broncos. And I said it last year. Oh, man, people are talking about the Broncos winning the AFC West, doing this, that, and the third. I have all the respect for Russell Wilson. It was a brand new quarterback. It was a brand new head coach. And it was brand new owners. And they go on and win 5 games last year. And Russell Wilson looks like a shell of himself. And some people are selling all their stock. They don't even care that Russell Wilson won a Super Bowl and actually went to back-to-back and had a chance to win back-to-back. And if he would have done so, he would have been that standing quarterback to do that until this day. People kind of forget that. So he is walking into a lot. Like, who wanted the Denver job? Hell of a contract for Russell Wilson. Can you figure that out? Denver already says, look, we're trying to find an exit strategy if he plays bad again. So I could be jumping the gun, but Sean Payton has dealt with this type of shakiness before. And I've been saying, kind of my tagline for Denver has been Sean Payton and Russell Wilson are going to bring things out of each other's game that really no one's seen before because of the abilities of Sean Payton for Russ and because of Russ to Sean Payton, kind of mingling there. But we're talking about record predictions after I put all that out there. Got them going 12-5. 8-1 at home, 4-4 on the road. They're going to be in third. They're going to be third in the division, and I think it's going to kind of fall with the conference games. That's what they look at after, if you split in the division and have the same record. However, they're going to figure that out. I do think the Chiefs will finish ahead of them with the same record, but second in the division. Broncos will be third. 5-3 going into the Week 9 bye. They have to 5-3 going into the Week 9 bye. They got to face Kansas City twice early on in the season before the bye week, which they should really be thankful for because those are probably going to be their toughest games of the year. They're in their division, so they have to play them twice. They get to play Kansas City, I think, twice in 3 or 4 weeks, if I'm not mistaken. Week 6, they got Kansas City on the road. Week 7, Green Bay at home. Week 8, Kansas City at home. Talking about the Broncos schedule there. They're going to go 4-2 in the division. Again, sweep the Raiders, split with LA and Kansas City. And their schedule isn't packed too tight with a stretch of, tough big games. It seems like they play a good team, that they get a game or two against a lesser team. Now, in the NFL, you do have to keep your guard up. It's a league that's really getting stronger every year. Thankfully, there's more good teams than bad teams, thankfully. And that might kind of sound oxymoron to say, but the good teams are starting to get ushered in. Now, as we go on into the last team for the AFC West, and I hate to be this way about the Las Vegas Raiders, but it is what it is. If I can get it to switch over. Come on, there we go. Awesome. Raiders 2023 record prediction, season outlook, however you want to look at it for, I think that's going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL next year. Hit me with it, man.
Yeah, I got them going 5-12, so I'm right there with you. I do not see it with Jimmy G. If they couldn't get it done with Derek Carr, I don't think there's a shot they can do it with him.
Right.
Josh McDaniels, I assume we're going to get later on into some head coaching, hot seat stuff, and he is right there with them. If he doesn't, put something together this year, which I think that his back is against the wall in that respect. So the Raiders, man, they've been making some really weird decisions the last couple years.
Yeah.
This is, obviously in the past, but this is just going back to decisions made by the front office with the Raiders that I just never really understood, which was the actual Devontae Adams trade, which a lot of people at that time were like, oh my goodness, like this is awesome. They're going to have Derek Carr, Devontae Adams went to Fresno State together. They have chemistry. This is going to be amazing. Yep. And I was just thinking to myself, man, like you're giving away a ton of draft capital and assets and money to a guy that how much is he going to actually move the needle for your franchise when it comes to the AFC West? You're still competing with the Chargers who have Justin Herbert. You're competing with Patrick Mahomes who the Kansas City Chiefs who has Patrick Mahomes. Like, I just never understood. Like, I guess they wanted to do the whole, like, we're going to compete and hopefully one of those teams slips up when you slip into the playoffs. But I was just like, that was a lot to risk for an organization in a very muddy situation. But yeah, I think this is going to go downhill McDaniel's probably going to be out of a job, and they're going to be looking to reset the whole thing next year.
Yeah, definitely. And everything you said, I piggyback off of there. It's going to be a team that they're going to be better than bad, but they're going to be worse than average at best. I'll say that again. They'll be better than bad, but they're going to be worse than average at their peak. So this team is not even average at best, but they're floating in between bad and average, whatever the hell you guys want to call that. Devontae Adams not happy about Jimmy Garoppolo. I'll get to him in a second. He was quoted saying, "I don't really see a way for us to win unless we use him a certain way. We're not seeing eye to eye on the schemes right now with the offense." And when you're talking about one of the most expensive wide receivers in the game, who rightfully so is because he's one of the top ones in the game, when you have him talking about that new quarterback coming in, when you have Josh McDaniels that didn't have a great reputation in the first year, when you have Darren Waller leaving, and when you know a counterpart in Josh Jacobs isn't even getting his contract worked on yet or they're still negotiating, that's going to affect how Devontae Adams is actually going to function in that offense and really be a prolific receiver in the NFL. And Jimmy G can't carry a team with a horrible defense. I mean, I talked about it. Jimmy G was good. He was not great. He was good in San Francisco. It's just like when you put a running back into San Francisco's system. Like, it's going to work more times than not because of how they're built. Jimmy G was never a guy that won a game with his arm or he had to make the throw to win it. And the only throw we can think about for Jimmy G is the one he overshot Emmanuel Sanders on in the Super Bowl, if we're just being honest. Jimmy G always had a great defense to help him out in San Francisco. Derek Carr never had a top 20 defense in his decade with the Las Vegas Raiders. And Derek Carr is a gunslinger. He could get you into a game, get you out of a game. Jimmy G is a manager. And so Jimmy G is now going to be asked to carry a team that I'm not a fan of the roster. I'm really not. And the defensive side of the ball is absolutely horrible. Again, we mentioned Josh Jacobs might be gone, and Josh McDaniels is regretfully at the helm. When I take a look at the schedule, and I know this prediction sounds way different than the other ones, but it's just going to be a bad team this year. I didn't want to actually pain myself of going through and saying, "Oh wow, are they really going to go 2-15? Are they really want to go 1-16?" I see no more than 5 wins here on the schedule for Vegas. You got possibly Indy, Green Bay, maybe the Giants, maybe the Vikings, and possibly the Bears as well. But these guys are going to be last in the division. They're going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL. It's a tank season. Maybe Caleb Williams will be in there next year, possibly with the Cardinals. Who knows? Had the Cardinals as a horrible team as well. Had the Titans as not a good team too. Raiders fell into that tank team season, and that's just unfortunately how it's going to play out. I love that NFL Mike jumps in the comments. The Raiders' dark age continues. I'm enjoying this one. It's no ironic situation there that you jump in, NFL Mike. I love, by the way, how you're implementing all the Raiders hate into your content. I love how it's becoming part of your scheme. Wesley, I want to see your comment here. I know you might have jumped out. Don't know if you went over DeAndre Hopkins or not, but he is an improvement over Robert Woods. Definitely for about the same money he was going to get. I believe that's accurate too. That being said, Hopkins isn't happy when he isn't getting the ball. That's true. Going to a run first team isn't good for him. That comment's a little long, but I'll just keep reading it. Now in the long run, he doesn't help the team. I disagree there. Reason being, besides a second-year guy coming off his rookie year, talking about Treylon Burks, what other wide receivers are out there? Got to have more threats. You definitely have to have more threats. And I think Logan and I were both agreeing, like, you can't fault Tennessee, considering what everyone's saying about them and considering they're in the AFC. You can't fault them for going to get DeAndre Hopkins for $10 million a year, barring he has an average season. He's only going to get paid up to 13, which is cheap, if he's having, one of his best years or, one of his career years in the league. But again, we can't necessarily knock Tennessee for going to get DeAndre Hopkins. But appreciate everybody that's in the live right now, that's in the chat. Y'all please make sure to like the stream, share wherever you're at, subscribe on YouTube. Make sure to get at Logan Hill, who is the guest on the show tonight, at Coordinated Chaos NFL on all social media platforms. He's on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, all of the main places that the NFL with AJL is too. This is episode 30, guys. Of course, I always appreciate y'all jumping in. You could have chose any other podcast. Make sure to hit the QR code on Logan's side of the screen as well for every bit of podcast, every bit of social media content. Leave us a review on Spotify. My man, I love when the guests do that. Literally, like, it's like you guys just understand, like, I'm going to separate the screen. The QR code's here, and
we know the game.
Justin gave it a point. Jerm gave it a point. I appreciate you Appreciate you pointing it out as well. But yeah, guys, you already know what the deal is at the NFL with AJL at Coordinated Chaos NFL. And real quick, while we're on the sponsor break, want to thank everybody for getting us to over 500 subs on YouTube. Yeah, excuse me. They recently shortened their requirements to actually be able to make money off YouTube. So we're still about halfway there in terms of the watch hours. But once we get the watch hours up, which I know we will, you guys will be able to subscribe to the channel, actually have a paid membership to get exclusive content from the channel. And you can drop super chats to me as well, whether it's $1, $5, anything you guys give just for me talking on camera. I'm extremely grateful. As some people say, it keeps the lights on and it keeps the show going. But appreciate you guys definitely, as always, for jumping into episode 30. And now we're going to hop into the top 10 NFL wide receivers heading into the 2023 season. So we'll go from 10 to 1. I'll let you hit your list first. I'll hit my list. And then if you don't mind at the end, just kind of name them off one by one again, just so that people can know. And then, of course, I'll go and do the same. But top 10 NFL wide receivers for 2023. You're up, bro.
All right, we're going 10 to 1, correct here?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's start with Deebo Samuel. A lot of people are going to be probably a little bit like, I don't know about that. I think it was just a really bad down year for him. He missed 4 games due to injury. It was one of those situations where he had basically a contract holdout last year and he's admitted he didn't come into the season as in shape as he should have been. And I think he is, because 2 years ago, his season was incredible. He was doing a lot of running back stuff, but as a receiver, he was incredible as well. I think he's just a good athlete in general, and I think he's a top 10 wide receiver at the very least, and I think he's going to prove it once again this season.
Nice. Who you got at number 9?
Number 9, Jalen Waddle. This dude had 1,300 yards and 8 touchdowns as the number 2 wide receiver on the team, which is incredible. That's just, it's crazy. It's an offense that is just built and predicated on just speed. Tua Tagovailoa throwing to a spot and letting his guys go get it. And Jalen Waddle, you can use him in every kind of aspect. He can, take a speed sweep. He can take a handoff. Really, he can do anything. He is a jack of all trades kind of guy, kind of like Deebo Samuel, and he's just ultra fast. So number 8, I have Terry McLaurin, which I don't know. This has been kind of a point of contention for a lot of people. Like, where do I put Terry? His statistics have never been incredible, but he's getting the ball thrown to him by lawn chairs. So I can't fault him for that. Like, that's just one of those realities of, like, if he was on the Kansas City Chiefs, I don't know if they'd lose a game. That's how good of a receiver he is, but nobody knows it because he's just in Washington wasting away. And of course he signed that contract, which made me sad in general, just because I have to watch him play the Eagles twice a year, and I just feel bad for him because we're just more than often to not steamroll them, and then he just looks sad on the sidelines. But I think he's a really good player. It stinks that he's in that situation.
Yeah.
Number 7, I have Cooper Kupp. Obviously hurt last year, not a good season. Year before, one of the best wide receiver seasons we've ever seen in the history.
He was on pace last year for another crazy year too.
Okay, so before I wrote this down, before he got hurt, 812 yards and 6 touchdowns, and he didn't play in 8 games. Yep. That's insane.
Yep.
So I think he's still right up there. I think he's probably going to be able to climb back up this list even more this year. Sure. I just kind of put him nearing the end there just because of the down year.
Right. But Stafford coming off the surgery too. It just makes you wonder.
Yeah, exactly. Number 6, we have Stephon Diggs. I actually did not realize that he had 11 touchdowns last year. I looked that up and I was kind of shocked. I had him in fantasy and I didn't even realize that. So. But 1,400 yards from him too. That's wild as well.
Yeah.
He's just an all-around. He's a great route runner, can burn you deep. He's just an all-around great player. I just don't know if he's better than the 5 guys in front of him right now.
Yeah.
And there's just a lot of situational things going on with him that I just don't know how he's feeling going into this season and if he's going to continue to be on an uptick or if he's going to decline a little bit with the Josh Allen situation. I think they're probably going to figure it out and be fine. But with that being said, at number 5, A.J. Brown, my Eagles, 1,496 yards, 11 touchdowns. So a very similar stat line to Stephon Diggs. But it was more of the situation where, and Stephon Diggs did it 2 years ago, however many years ago that he went to Buffalo.
Yeah.
where AJ Brown changed the face of the offense for the
Oh,
Eagles.
yeah.
I mean, it allowed that offense to open up things that the Eagles haven't been able to do since they had Terrell Owens, and that
Right.
was in 2004, 2005. Like it was insane to watch just how much of an impact one guy can have on an offense, and I think that deserves being a top 5 wide receiver.
Yeah.
Number 4, we have Jamar Chase. I mean, this dude has every bit of talent in the world, and I think he's going to put it on display
Definitely.
this year. He missed 4 games last year, still had 9 touchdowns, over 1,000 yards, and he's dealing with another potentially top 15, top 20 wide receiver in his wide receiver room, and T. Higgins there. And so he's still getting his while, sacrificing some touches. So
Yep.
I think he's incredible. He can run. He is a great route runner as well. I think he's got it all, and I think he's only going to go up on this list as time goes on. Some of these other wide
Oh, yeah.
receivers getting old, and they will start dropping down. He'll start going up. With that being said, number 3 is Devontae Adams. This dude just keeps getting it done no
Yeah.
matter what. I
Straight up.
feel bad because I don't know what's going to happen this year with Jimmy G in that situation. It may drop off
Right.
because of that fact, but the dude had 1,500 yards and 14 touchdowns. I didn't even realize that was the case either because the Raiders were just not very, I don't know, good last year. I just didn't pay attention enough. But Devontae Adams, I thought, honestly, it sounds like a hater thing to say, but I thought he was more of a product of Aaron Rodgers until last year, and he proved
Right.
to be the guy.
Career
So
highs and all of it too.
exactly. So I just more power to him. The dude's incredible. He's getting up there in age, but his game's not really predicated on being crazy explosive. It's about route running and
Right.
positioning and
Very
leverage.
technical.
Hands, strong hands. So
Yep.
I think he's incredible. Number 2, Tyreek Hill. That guy scares more defensive coordinators than anybody else in
Yes, he does.
probably the history of football. Like this dude last year he took a fumble that he scooped for a 60-yard touchdown.
Yep.
That's so dumb. Like that should never actually happen. He's that fast, and it's incredible. Like so, he can do anything. He changes the face of that offense, even though they
Yeah.
still have Jalen Waddle, as I alluded to earlier. But Tua, man, he can get him the ball in any type of fashion, and it's going to go for 60, 80 yards because he's just
Walking one play touchdown.
dude. He is. He's explosive as all get out. And then number 1, of course, Justin Jefferson.
Jettas.
Dude, he's the man.
He
He
is.
has everything in the bag too. Like he's not, and it's incredible because he's kind of in that same Devontae Adams mold where he's not the fastest guy, he's
Right.
not the quickest guy.
He's just
But
gonna
he's
outthink you
all
between
around
the
so good.
hashes.
Yeah,
Yep.
he just gets open, and like that's just such a massive thing for offenses, just like Devontae Adams does.
Right. Great list there, man. Mine's a little similar. I like how you had the Jalen Waddles and Scary Terrys in there. It was a little tough for me, because like when you talk about top 10 in the league, you think about, okay, really every, team has 2 guys, or at least they should. So you're like, dang, it's almost like I could do top cores in the entire league or whatever it is. But realistically, I feel like if you're anywhere in the top 25, possibly of the wide receiver position, at the very least, you can have the claim to be a great, maybe not elite. I feel like more top 7 to 8 is elite, but even then, I mean, the positions are so interchangeable, and the different ways that these receivers can be used. I'm going to go 10 to 1 as well. Couple of honorable mentions here: Calvin Ridley, Garrett Wilson, Jordan Addison might surprise some of you guys. I think he was the best receiver in the draft. I don't believe he's going to be top 10 due to Justin Jefferson demanding that. Wanted to put Jalen Waddle in there as well. You did have a lot of respect for it. Actually, both of the Miami speedsters there too. Scary Terry, even Mike Evans. I believe Mike Evans can still be top 10, hell, maybe even top 7 or 8. But what's the QB position going to be like there? Possibly looked at, a DK Metcalf too. But we know, again, these top receivers in the league can be great. But out of those honorable mentions, Calvin Ridley and Garrett Wilson really, really tugged on me. But enough with the BS. Let's get to the actual top 10 NFL wide receivers I think we're going to see next year. At number 10, we talked about him earlier, and I'm going to give him respect. Give me Deandre Hopkins, a guy who continues to show year in and year out, whatever quarterback it is, whatever situation it is, he's got the hands, he's got the deep threat, he's got the route running, and he's a veteran on the field. Whether it's Ryan Tannehill, which I believe in order for him to get to this top 10, it will have to be Tannehill throwing to him most of the time. But if it's Malik Willis, if it's Will Levis, DeAndre Hopkins is going to be the safety blanket, the first read, the second read, and the third read for those guys. Maybe not
Yeah.
realistically, but we understand what's going to happen there. Wesley, I saw you said don't talk about AJ Brown. You're still sad. I totally understand. Did do a little bit of a updated prediction on the Titans. Gotcha went at about 5 games instead of 2, like I said earlier. But let's go on to the number 9 wide receiver. This one was a little tough for me, again, because you can put so many guys in this top 10 list. But when I think about a guy's numbers, consistency, what he does for that team, give me CeeDee Lamb. And the person that's ahead of him on the list kind of reminds me of him too. But at number 9, give me CeeDee Lamb with the Dallas Cowboys. Again, his receptions have went up every year. I want to say I know his yards have went up every year. He continues to be that great option for Dak Prescott. Now he's definitely the wide receiver 1. Brandon Cooks does come in, who could also be in this top 10, top 25 receivers in the league, traded a record amount of times. But we know what Brandon Cooks is capable of, just like we know what CeeDee Lamb is capable of as well. At number 8, a receiver that a lot of people I feel like have forgotten about since he left the aforementioned Dallas Cowboys. That's going to be Amari Cooper. Even with only having Deshaun Watson for 6 games last year and having a very shaky quarterback room up until that, Amari Cooper still had over 1,000 yards receiving, still had one of his best seasons of his career. He can be that deep threat. He can be that great route runner. And Amari Cooper is, I wouldn't say he's a do-it-all receiver, but in terms of playing in the slot, playing outside, the types of routes he can run, getting the, going for a go ball, going up for a 50-50 catch, you can really trust Amari Cooper to, I think I might have said CeeDee Lamb earlier, my bad. You can still trust Amari Cooper to be that type of guy. And with Deshaun Watson now being able to throw him the football, it's going to be even better. Deshaun Watson is a quarterback that I have a lot of hope for coming into next year. Because I saw what he was before all the off-field stuff. Number 7, I believe, was also your number 7. That's going to be Cooper Kupp for me. Again, even though he had a very odd year last year, because he was injured and did, fall short, he was still on pace for another 1,700 yard season, still had the insane, almost record-setting season the year before. And it does make you put him a little lower on this list because he is coming off of injury. He is coming off of, his quarterback is also coming off of a major injury and had surgery as well. So you just want to make sure things are going to be on the up and up there. Sean McVay, being the head coach, he'll definitely make enough plays and room for him in that offense. At number 6, give me A.J. Brown, who really bursted onto the scene with the Philadelphia Eagles. He was already on the scene with the Tennessee Titans, but now pairing with Jalen Hurts, pairing with Nick Sirianni, having a Devontae Smith, and I believe still a Dallas Goedert in the building yes, that is right, to be able to, just have that other option for Jalen Hurts, but still be able to get A.J. Brown open as well. His play in the Super Bowl where he kind of stopped running his route and then sped up again. I'm sure you know exactly what play I'm talking about, where Jalen Hurts threw the bomb to A.J. Brown and he kind of faked him out, or he stopped, pretended like he was going to catch the ball, and then kept running forward and just totally, God, I can't remember which corner it was, but definitely made a fool out of him in a way. So I got a lot of respect for A.J. Brown. Number 5, Devontae Adams. Didn't want to put him this low because at any day, just like Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, Jamar Chase, they can be the best receiver in the league. And I think there's only a few guys that you can actually say, yeah, he can be the best in the league, no doubt. It's going to be weird with Josh McDaniels now in the second season. It's going to be weird with now Jimmy G coming in. And it's not that Jimmy G won't be able to throw to Michael Mayer or won't be able to throw to a Devontae Adams, because he's going to be a great number 1 option. It's not that he won't be able to get the football to him, but I do believe Devontae Adams' production will take a hit. And I'm sure some people can ask how, because of look with Aaron Rodgers now going to Derek Carr. Jimmy G's not a gunslinger like Derek Carr and Aaron Rodgers were. Jimmy G isn't fearless like Derek Carr and Aaron Rodgers were. You're talking about some games Devontae Adams literally had 15, 19, 22 targets a game from Aaron Rodgers. Maybe not the same with Derek Carr, but even then, they were teammates. This is very different here. And Jimmy G and Devontae Adams, or at least on the Devontae Adams end, isn't necessarily feeling what the Raiders are doing right now. Number 4, Stephon Diggs. Kind of wanted to put him lower. He could have easily went higher, but we've heard he is very, very unhappy, apparently, this offseason. Sean McDermott said it was very concerning that he missed training camp, and you never want your star receiver who really elevated your superstar quarterback in Josh Allen, who has a major contract, to the level that he's at, and not have Stephon Diggs in the room. I think he's still going to be very productive, still a great sharp route runner, still one of the smartest in the game. 11 touchdowns, like you said, 1,400 yards. He's been up there in receiving yards ever since he's went to Buffalo, and I don't think that'll be anything changing here. Number 3, the walking one-play touchdown, the menace, the cheetah, Tyreek Hill. Nothing more to say there. We know if he hits a gap, he's gone. He can take a screen. He can take a go route. He can take a slant. He can take a post flag to the house. He could easily be the number one receiver on this list. A lot of people think he is the number one receiver. If Tua was a lock for health and consistency against all NFL defenses,
Yep.
all tiers of NFL defenses, I think we could be talking about Tyreek Hill higher. But number 3 is nothing to scoff at for the Cheetah. Number 2, Justin Jefferson, maybe the best route runner in the NFL, really a younger Devontae Adams. Good speed. He doesn't have to burn you. He'll just break your ankles on any type of route. He'll also take it to the end zone. Best rookie wide receiver we saw at the time. The best first 2, or I think it might be a stretch of 3 years now we've ever seen from an NFL wide receiver. And then his counterpart, who also played with him at LSU, I believe Jamar Chase will be the number 1 wide receiver in the NFL this year. He did have a little bit of a tail off from his rookie year. But we also saw he dealt with a hip injury, and people forget that. He still went out and put up, I think, 8, 9 touchdowns, still over 1,000 yards. I think he had about 250, 300 yards less, but he did miss those 3 games. So I do believe Jamar Chase will be the best wide receiver in the NFL. I believe the Bengals did shore up that O-line more. We know they're going to be elite. We know they're going to be one of the teams that really hangs in the AFC this year. So my top 10 wide receivers from 10 to 1. DeAndre Hopkins at 10, CeeDee Lamb at 9, Amari Cooper at 8, Cooper Kupp at 7, A.J. Brown at 6, Davante Adams at 5, Stephon Diggs at 4, Tyreek Hill at 3, Justin Jefferson at 2, Jamar Chase at 1. Will you go through yours again one more time just so that people will know?
Respect to you on doing the Jamar Chase thing. Not a lot of people have the the cojones to do that. And I respect it because I think he can easily be up there very soon. Like you said, within a year, this year he could go crazy. So
I really think he will.
I respect the top 10 there. Mine was number 10, Deebo Samuel. Number 9, Jalen Waddle. Number 8, Terry McLaurin. Number 7, Cooper Kupp. Number 6, Stephon Diggs. Number 5, A.J. Brown. Number 4, Jamar Chase. Number 3, Davante Adams. Number 2, Tyreek Hill. And 1, Justin Jefferson.
Yes, sir. Sounds like we had them all about the same. I think we just switched out our all we did was switch out our 8, 9, and 10, but our top 7 were still unanimous, just in a little bit of a different order. I wanted to put Deebo in there too. I know he is a very good player, very good receiver. He can be a great running back. I don't buy into him as being a consistent top 10 receiver. And now with Brock Purdy, Trey Lance, Sam Darnold. Excuse me. Can't forget Sam Darnold in the quarterback room. It just kind of makes me nervous as we go on into as we go on into the deeper times of Deebo Samuel's career. But before we wrap up episode 30 of the NFL with AJL, ladies and gentlemen, again, I appreciate all y'all tuning in to the show. Please like the stream, subscribe on YouTube, share wherever you're at. Yes, I've got some bias because Dennis Allen is in the graphic for the head coaching hot seats of 2023, but I'm sick of him already, and I think there's a lot of bias creeping in there, but it's totally okay. I'll let you hit your head coaching hot seats first. We'll kind of go back and forth. I'll list mine, and then we'll wrap up episode 30, man. So, Logan, take the way. Give me some hot seats that you're looking into for some NFL head coaches next year.
So when you kind of brought this to my attention, I really started looking at just teams in general, was thinking about all the head coaches, obviously.
Yeah.
And I was able to list 10 different head coaches that I think could potentially be on the hot seat.
Damn, let's go.
I don't think any of them, there's only 3 of them that I think are super on the hot seat. But these other 10 have a chance to be fired depending on what happens in the next season or 2.
Let's get it.
But so my 3 that I'm for sure on, Josh McDaniels, kind of alluded to that earlier with the whole situation with Jimmy G. I don't know if it's going to work out. Probably not. They're in such a tough division. It's just a super uphill climb for him to get out of that position. The next one, Ron Rivera with the Washington Commanders. I think his time has kind of, especially once this whole new ownership thing comes in, they're probably going to want their own guy, and I think he's probably just run its course there in Washington. The next one, Todd Bowles. Unfortunately, he keeps getting the short end of the stick.
Yeah.
there. Every single time he gets a head coaching position, something goes wrong. Tom
Yeah.
Brady's retiring here with the Jets. It was a terrible situation. So I think he's not a bad coach in general. I just don't know if he's built for a head coaching position. Still a
Yeah.
great defensive coordinator, but I just don't know. I think moving forward, he's probably going to be out of there in Tampa very soon.
Yeah.
But some stuff that I just kind of, like, if you think about situationally what can happen, I wrote down Kevin Stefanski, and this is only based on the fact that
I
if
had him
he,
on there at first too.
yeah, if he just doesn't get Deshaun Watson back to where he is supposed to be talent wise, I think there's a chance. And if this just goes, you know, terribly for him in the AFC North, I think there's a
Mhm.
chance there. Brandon Staley, you mentioned it earlier. A lot of people are upset at him. I think Kellen Moore is going to save his bacon this year. I don't think a lot of people are going to be talking about the defense and whatnot with him based on the fact that Kellen Moore, I think, is going to turn that offense around. Justin Herbert's going to have a great year, and the Chargers are going to be in contention for the Super Bowl. So
Yeah.
I think he probably gets, you know, one more year until something else goes wrong. But once again, if they just flounder again,
Right.
there's going to be a lot of people calling for his job.
Yeah.
Robert Saleh potentially, and this is just if the Aaron Rodgers situation's flop.
Yeah.
I think they'll probably give him a year to try to get some things under his belt with
Right.
Aaron Rodgers at the helm before they, you know, axe him essentially.
Yeah.
So they may give him that 1 year trial period, but he's potentially on there. I did see a rumor, and this is not something that I would personally do. Somebody said that Robert Kraft is getting a little bit frustrated with Bill Belichick, and he may be on the chopping block. And I'm just like, dude, there's no way if I'm the
Yeah.
owner of the
Bill is the
Patriots.
highlight possibly of that franchise right now. As much as he might not be up to speed with drafting and personnel and that in the third, that would be interesting. Never say never. I remember when Undisputed was like, Tom Brady might be on the move from the Patriots, and I was like, damn, Skip and Shannon are digging for some content. And here we
Yeah,
were 3 months later, Tampa
yeah.
Bay.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I think if you're the owner of that franchise, there's no way you pull the trigger on that. You just let him retire and ride off into the sunset whenever he feels like it, and then you just reset once he's gone. Um, Mike McCarthy, this is a weird one, but
Yeah.
it's one of those situations. If Dak throws double-digit interceptions again, and if the Kellen Moore move to the Chargers looks as good as I think it's going to, there's going to be a whole lot of backlash on Mike McCarthy saying, well, that was a bad decision on the front office's part, letting him go and thinking Mike McCarthy could fix the offense. So I think he is potentially there if they have a bad season. I don't think they will, but it's a potential possibility. Another one, Dan Campbell, actually. And this one's weird just because I think that there's just a lot of expectations on the Detroit Lions this year. And I don't think another kind of losing season or a 500 season will get him axed.
Mhm.
But I can see it happening where, like, another year of, you know, his rah-rah, you know, attitude, it might get stale in the locker room if they don't start winning soon, and somebody might want him out of there.
Yeah.
And then the last one is actually a rookie head coach. I have a little bit of a bias on this one, but it's Jonathan Gannon because that
Yeah.
situation in Arizona is bad. I mean, it is. I don't even know where to start. Like, the whole tampering situation is not good.
Yeah.
Um, I just the quarterback situation. We don't know when Kyler's coming back.
Yeah.
His defense got exposed in the Super Bowl, so I don't know how much, you know, he's going to have an effect on that defense moving forward for the Cardinals.
Right.
But yeah, that's the last one I have on my list there, and I mean they'll probably give him the benefit of the doubt because he's a rookie head coach, but I
Right.
don't think he's head coach material, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, I totally feel you. It was a bad hire. Hey, give me just 1 second. I got my dog trying to get out of my room.
Oh, you're good.
Come on, girl. In the middle of the show, it's okay. It's like I always say, that's the queen right there. Her and the lady call all the shots. She
I hear
has to be in here like every time I podcast, and sometimes every now and then she'll want to get out. But hey, if y'all are a regular on the show, if you watch the content, you know, letting the dog out is sometimes just a part of the game. But hey, I like all the ones you put out there. I think some of them might be a little aggressive, like Robert Saleh. I don't know if they'll want to change up, um, you know, the small Aaron Rodgers era that they do have. Like, okay, 2 years. If they bomb it in year one and Rodgers wants to leave, yeah, they might let Saleh walk. But
Mhm.
if, Rodgers is only going to get 2 seasons, maybe 3, I do think it's only 2 at the max. They're probably going to want to keep that head coaching, you know, uh,
Stable.
continuity, stable and
Mhm.
and the same, just so they can have that run for them. Mike McCarthy wanted to put him on too, but God knows how long it took for them to move on from Jerry Jones. Maybe they don't want to
Great
see the
point.
same thing happen. But I'm right there with you. Dallas is a team, and I think Mike McCarthy hasn't had. He went 6-10 the first year. I think it was then 10-6, 12-5, something like that. So he's had a winning record overall, and especially after the first year. Wanted to say Stefanski too, because he won 11 games, a playoff game, won 8 games, then he won 7 games. But the Deshaun Watson era is really here. I think it's really about to take full effect. I really think this is kind of a new part of Cleveland we could see, and I think Deshaun Watson is going to be a top 10 quarterback next year. So I think he'll stay put too, just because of Deshaun Watson, that era kind of starting out.
Mhm.
Wanted to say Brandon Staley as well. These are a couple guys I actually had on there, but when I was looking in, I was like, I don't know if they'll be on it just yet, but I think you made great points and wanted to go back on it there with you. But yeah, Brandon Staley, after him blowing the playoff game, after him, doing okay for the Chargers, but still not having the great coaching moments that he needs to have in terms of play calling, possibly clock management, whatever the case may be, that could be a reason why, Brandon Staley could be on the chopping block. But I think he's still doing okay enough right now. Now, if we're talking about another season or two and the Chargers aren't making any headway, then yeah, I definitely think that they could they could let him go. So for my head coaching hot seats, of course, I said Dennis Allen's in the graphic, so he's going to be on my list. And I don't know if it was him or Pete Carroll last year, but the offense was just so freaking bad. It was anemic. The play calling was horrible. And this team just played down to their competitors all year long. And we kind of saw that being a theme with Sean Payton at times, with the New Orleans Saints. But just to see a team that, might not have had the greatest roster, but when we saw how they were losing, just the situations they were being put in because of the play calling, because of the coaching, and everyone's saying Pete Carmichael needs to go. I don't know if, excuse me. I know Sean Payton was calling the plays while he was there. I don't know if it was mostly Sean Payton's influence making that offense run or mostly Pete Carroll's, but all I know is the offense didn't look bad until Sean Payton left. So if Dennis Allen is the one calling the plays, then maybe he's the issue. Some people say, oh, now Pete took over, and since Sean's not there, it's all on him. I'm not sure. I'd like to say that it's Dennis Allen, though, because we saw certain defensive lapses at times with Dennis Allen. I'm just like, DA, literally, why are you being a DA? Like, WTF are you literally doing right now? Calling these types of plays with rookies on veterans and this, that, and the third. And the defense was the only highlight, but it just lost some very key players this offseason. I know Derek Carr is coming back in. You might have wanted to call us the New Orleans Raiders or the Las Vegas Saints, however you wanted to cut it, because we had, multiple players coming in. Foster Moreau, very glad that his cancer was in remission. It's moving on. I think we had like Hunter Renfrow come and check out the Saints. Just a lot of Raiders folks that were coming over. Josh McDaniels is going to be on here as well. The Raiders are just a mess as an organization, and Josh McDaniels' first year was really scoffed at, with Josh Jacobs leading the league in rushing, Devontae Adams having career years, really both of them having career years. You go into the offseason, you lose you lose Darren Waller, you lose Derek Carr, you bring in Jimmy G, who, like we said earlier, is not going to be able to carry. Devontae Adams isn't happy. Josh Jacobs is still negotiating, and the Raiders fans just really might be over it already. I know it was only, 1 year, but the draft was okay. I wasn't a fan of Tyree Wilson. They really think he's a one-trick pony, and of course, we know Michael Mayer is a top tight end in the game. He was up there with the Dalton Kincaids and Darnell Washingtons of the world, but just the way Josh McDaniels had things play out last year, and just how messy the Raiders are, it wouldn't shock me, honestly, if he was maybe let go in the middle of the season. I'd like to think that he can keep a job, because it always says to me, if they let you go in the middle of the season, you clearly weren't good enough to ride it out. And if they let you go right after, it was an absolute crapshoot. Now, another team that I think their coach could be on the hot seat as well. And again, I felt like I had to dig to actually get to these points with these guys, because we did, just see a lot of head coaching, or not a lot of, but some head coaching jobs filled. And I'm in agreement with you with Jonathan Gannon too. If he, easiest schedule last year, exposed in the Super Bowl, I don't know, just goofy social media. Go ahead.
Just his defense was never good against a competent quarterback.
Right.
And it proved to be real when it came to the playoffs. Or I
Yep.
mean, because I mean, we in the playoffs we played, Daniel Jones. Okay,
Right.
we can handle that. We
Right.
played Brock Purdy, hurt him within the first however many minutes in the game. That was on Kyle Shanahan. That's on him though, because he decided to block Hassan Reddick with the tight end. Um, but I mean, then we get
Son
this
Reddick was a
result, and we're not
monster for
prepared.
y'all.
I mean, and I don't know if we weren't prepared for Patrick Mahomes because he can't compete against good quarterbacks, or
Yeah.
because he was focused on the Cardinals job, which he was tampering with in the middle of the week. So
Yeah. Yeah, very interesting with Jonathan Gannon. We'll see what ends up happening with him because I'll just say this. Arizona drafted Josh Rosen #1 overall. Kicked that man to the curb after year 1 to take Kyler Murray #1 overall. Cliff Kingsbury, as much as I was calling for his job, and people were really hype. Oh, well, he had a hand in Texas Tech with Patrick Mahomes and this, that, and the third. Um, for Kingsbury to go in and perform the way he did, and then his job fall off the table, I kind of felt like quickly, but maybe he was unqualified as well. You have an instance of #1 pick gone. Cliff Kingsbury hired quick, not a real reputation, gone. Jonathan Gannon, no reputation. Is this going to be a one season wonder for old JG, former DC of Philly? I don't know, man. I really don't know. But another coach that only has 1 year under his belt, Matt Eberflus, who I believe came over from the Colts, if I'm not mistaken. I
mhm.
just think when you go 3-14 in your first year, you spend a ton of money in free agency on players with a linebacking room. You have a good NFL draft. You go and get a weapon for your quarterback in Justin Fields, talking about DJ Moore. You trade the #1 overall pick, which I don't have an issue with because you got a haul for it. And then,
Mhm.
like I mentioned, the good NFL draft, and there's all the hype around Justin Fields. If Chicago has another season like they did last year, I think it's over. I think it's absolutely over. You have to win more than 3 games, and you have to lose less than 14. If
Yeah,
Chicago can just come out and win 6 or 7, double their wins and some, I think that's enough to keep Matt's
mhm.
job. But if we're talking about Chicago again scraping up just 4 or 5, like maybe 5 games saves him. But I think if we're talking about Chicago scraping up, clearly if it's less, he's gone. If Chicago's only scraping up another 3 to 4 wins, what's Eberflus doing? I get it. The roster might not have been in good play for him. It really wasn't. Where's the weapons been for Justin Fields? But maybe you should cut him a little bit of slack, but I don't see how after the offseason, after you trade that #1 pick, which I think it was smart. You don't take Will Anderson unless you want to. But you got Roshan Johnson, you got Tyreek Stevenson at the corner, Roshan Johnson backing up, Bijan at Texas, you got DJ Moore out there. So we'll see what happens with Eberflus. And then the last one that I agreed with you on, I think it was one of the first that you mentioned, it's Ron Rivera. And I
Mhm.
got a lot of respect for Ron Rivera. Great defensive coach. I know he battled some cancer, actually made it through it. 15-1 season with Cam Newton, produced the MVP in Cam Newton, lost in the Super Bowl to Peyton Manning. It was, never really the same after. Or no, I'm thinking about the other Super Bowl with Peyton Manning where the ball was snapped over his head. Not the Seahawks. We're talking about the one against the Panthers. But yes, Ron Rivera, big players coach. A lot of people respect him. Listen to his guidance. But he's 22-27 in his 3 seasons as a head coach for Washington. 22 wins, 27 losses, and I think he's really done what he can with the quarterback room. I think it's a great defense, but a young roster realistically all the way around. And he did get them into a competitive playoff game with Tampa Bay just a couple years back when Tom Brady goes on and wins the Super Bowl. But here's the big thing. Eric Bieniemy is now the offensive coordinator, so his head coaching job awaits. I literally said it. Ron Rivera, when Eric Bieniemy came in, at first it didn't make sense. I'm like, what the hell is he doing? Like, we see all the speculation about why can't he interview well? Like, what's up with the head coaching jobs, this, that, and the third. But then I'm like, oh, wait a minute. If you can't be a head coach, just go be an OC, not behind Andy Reid in a sketchy head coaching situation, and you'll probably be able to be the head coach. And I think
Yep.
that's exactly what's happening here. He's OC, the head coaching job awaits. And Ron Rivera hasn't had a winning season since 2017 when they went 11-5 in Carolina, and he hasn't won more than 8 games since 2017. Also, this team has a roster, in my opinion, outside of quarterback right now to win now. I'm not saying win a Super Bowl, but this is a roster that's NFC divisional, playoff round, like capable, deserving, worthy of that. It is interesting with the quarterback question. It is unfortunate with Ron Rivera, but if we see Washington like quietly, but also recognizingly become a top 12, top 10 offense next year because of Eric Bieniemy? Like, are we really shocked? Because that's going to be the guy who's in the reins. That's going to be the guy who is behind Ron Rivera to take this job from him. And they could snag a quarterback in next year's draft if it's Caleb Williams, Drake May, whatever the case may be. I don't think they're that bad yet because they have the likes of the running back room, because they have the likes of Terry McLaurin, because they do have a, kind of an elite defense over there. But Ron Rivera just isn't it at the end of the day. You got Ron Rivera, Matt Eberflus, Josh McDaniels, and Dennis Allen on my head coaching hot seats. Logan had plenty. I loved all the explanations for them. And when you first told me that I think the Broncos were going to go 6-11, and then you were like, 10 head coaches, I was like, I got the right guy on the show. Division breakdown was great as well, man. Guys, this has been episode 30 of the NFL with AJL. I'm going to go ahead and hit this outro music, Logan, and we'll get out of here.
All right, man.
Yes. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was episode 30 of the NFL with AJL. I appreciate everyone jumping on the show tonight. As always, you could have chose any other podcast, any other show, any other YouTube channel, Facebook page, and you were right here. Please make sure to like and share the stream before you get out of the show tonight. Subscribe on YouTube. Love and appreciate everybody for the 500 subs at the NFL with AJL on all social platforms. The QR code on Logan's side of the screen will give you every bit of content. Give us a review on podcast platform, please. And Logan, plug yourself. Tell me where we can find you, what you got going on Coordinated Chaos, man.
Yeah, man, I'm in a little bit of a lull here with the content, but I am looking to ramp it back up. But I am on YouTube. I am on Instagram. I'm on Twitter. I'm on TikTok at Coordinated Chaos NFL in most places there. You can find it. It's NFL Football Podcast. I'm Logan Hill. I started NFL Coordinated Chaos, I don't know, back in 2018. I haven't looked back since, so just been making some content and ready to go.
Yeah, man, it was really good having you on. I know you said you've been in a little bit of a lull. Allow episode 30 to get you out of the lull and back into the content creating space, man. If you need the video or anything, I'll absolutely send it over to you. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, we love you. We appreciate you. We need you. We wouldn't be able to put on the show without your support. Let's go ahead and drive those watch hours up on YouTube as well so you can become a member of the actual YouTube channel so you can actually drop super chats to support us. Keep the lights on. Keep the show coming. All the good stuff we say. Episode 31 is coming up next. We'll see you next time. We out.